Senator Cruz, welcome back to the program here. Last time we had you on Inside Texas Politics, you were talking about the Take It Down Act. This is the legislation requiring social media companies to remove deep fake nude images of people within 48 hours of them asking to have it taken down. It's a bipartisan bill. It successfully passed the Senate. You're trying to get it passed in the House. What's the latest on talks with House leadership over there? How soon might this get a vote?
Listen, I'm incredibly encouraged. My Take It Down legislation passed the Senate unanimously last week, 100-0. Every Republican, every Democrat came together and supported the bill. I'm working very hard to try to get the House to take it up and vote it out next week. We're fighting against the clock. We're fighting against just a limited number of hours and days before the end of the year. But I've made the request multiple times to House leadership. If they put it up for a vote, it will pass. It will pass overwhelmingly. And the reason it will is because this is good policy and it's addressing a very real problem. We are seeing an exponential growth of children, of teenage girls, and of women being targeted by so-called revenge porn, being targeted by deep fakes. Over 95% of the deep fakes that are online are non-consensual intimate images, and we've seen in Texas teenage girls where people will go and use artificial intelligence to create a deep fake that appears to be either an explicit image or an explicit video and then circulate it often to their classmates at school. My legislation, the Take It Down Act, number one, makes that a felony, makes it a crime. It is a grotesque violation of your privacy and your rights to be targeted that way. But number two, Jason, as you noted, it gives you a legal right to get that garbage taken down. Right now, big tech platforms refuse to pull that content down. And this legislation, I joined with Amy Klobuchar, Democrat from Minnesota. We authored it together. It gives everyone the right to take down non-consensual intimate images. We're going to get it passed, I hope, by the end of the year. If we don't, we'll come back next year and pass it again. One way or the other, we're going to get this passed into law.
And you said you were working against the clock on this thing. I mean, what's the deadline you have before the new Congress? Is it January 3rd or is it prior to that?
It would be before the end of the year. And at the end of the year, when the House adjourns, then we'll have to come back. If we don't get it done in the House by the end of the year, then I'll take it up again early next year in the Senate. We'll pass it in the Senate again and work to get it through. But I'm optimistic. I think there's a good chance the House will take it up. They're facing a lot of competing priorities, so it's just a question of limited bandwidth, but I am working it hard, and I've got a lot of allies in the House. We had a press conference yesterday. Maria Salazar, Congresswoman Maria Salazar from Florida is the lead House Republican on the bill. She is pressing hard for it to be passed. We had a number of victims of this targeting who joined us there to say that this is really needed to protect young women, to protect teenage girls, and to protect also victims of trafficking. You know, one of the most tragic things we've seen, and I chaired a field hearing of the Commerce Committee in Dallas that focused on that victims of human trafficking, you see that they will be sexually abused, sexually assaulted, and the perpetrator will film that. And so not only does the child get horribly abused at the time of the incident, but then those images or those videos circulate online and they get victimized over and over and over again. This gives those people the right to take this information down, and it lets them protect and vindicate their own human rights.
Senator, since Republicans won control of the U.S. Senate, you're now in line to chair the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. It's an important committee. It's a powerful committee. What is priority number one for you?
Priority number one is jobs. The Commerce Committee has jurisdiction over about 40% of the U.S. economy. So if you care about jobs in Texas, and my number one priority is jobs, 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 there are very few positions in all of government that have a greater impact on jobs than the Senate Commerce Committee. As chairman of the Commerce Committee, there are a number of priorities that are going to be front and center. One of the big ones is spectrum, moving more spectrum to the private sector. And the reason is that unleashes tens of billions of dollars of new investment and helps create tens of thousands of new jobs. America needs to lead the world in the development of 5G because it is transformational and has a huge impact on jobs in Texas. Another major priority is going to be protecting college athletics, and in particular, the current state of affairs with name, image, and likeness rights is that college athletics has become the Wild West. And I think we're in real jeopardy of losing athletic programs at many smaller schools, losing non-revenue programs at many schools, and that would be tragic. And so I'm going to be working to bring together a bipartisan coalition to save and preserve college athletics. I'll tell you, a third big priority of the committee is going to be space. And we're going to take up and pass a NASA reauthorization bill in the next year. We're going to take up and pass a commercial space bill because both are critically important. And I'll tell you, when it comes to jobs in Texas, space exploration produces over 50,000 high-paying jobs in the state of Texas.
There is a lot of chatter right now about potentially privatizing NASA. We've heard this off and on for years. I know you have as well. It's obviously though a huge employer in Houston and around those areas there. But do you expect parts of the space agency to be privatized, to be offloaded to private businesses and corporations in the coming years?
So I do not. I think NASA is critically important to our national security. It's critically important to the country. Johnson Space Center in Houston is massively important, a hugely important employer in Texas. And listen, for 12 years, I have been the lead author of virtually every single piece of space legislation that has passed the United States Senate. And that has been true under Barack Obama, that was true under Donald Trump, and that was true under Joe Biden. And because space is enormously impactful, and I think it is a misconception to view NASA and commercial space as somehow in competition with each other. I am a huge advocate for commercial space. And the reason is, it is only through commercial space that we will get the tens and hundreds of billions of dollars invested that we need to take America back to the moon and to take America to Mars. You know, just a few weeks ago, I joined President Trump and Elon Musk down at Boca Chica, the southern tip of Texas, for SpaceX's latest launch of Starship. And you look at the investment SpaceX is making in the state of Texas, that is hugely important, but it is not, I believe, remotely in conflict with NASA. Rather, it is a partnership between the two, and the commercial space sector leverages and increases by an exponential level our ability to explore space.
Let me ask you another jobs question. And
Yeah.
Elon Musk, you mentioned there, he's indicated that he would like to end the federal funding for Lockheed Martin's F-35 program, which is, assembled in Fort Worth, as you know. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I think the F-35 is an amazing airframe. It is a fifth generation fighter jet that gives us an enormous advantage against our adversaries. I'm a big fan of the F-35. I think Elon is right that we need to be investing in next generation technology, and that means hypersonics, that means drones and drone technology. There's a lot of advanced weaponry that we need to be investing in, but I think the F-35 gives us an advantage over every one of our enemies across the globe. And if there's one thing the last 4 years have shown with the mess of foreign policy that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris created, is that we live in a dangerous world, and we need to be prepared to defend ourselves. And I think the F-35 is a hugely important part of doing that.
Senator, before we let you go, one political question here. I saw your support for Pete Hegseth as Defense Secretary. How about Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence? Where do you stand on that?
Look, I like Tulsi. I think she is a very impressive person. She has defended our nation. She's a lieutenant colonel defending the nation. She's smart. She's serious. I think Tulsi's going to be confirmed. We'll have a confirmation process for every one of these candidates under the Constitution. The Senate has a responsibility to advise and consent. But I believe at the end of the day that all of the Trump cabinet nominees are going to be confirmed. I think this slate of nominees is exceptionally strong. I'm really encouraged by the men and women who've come forward to serve with President Trump. And I think the president has an incredible mandate. You look at the election results. Of the 7 battleground states across the country, Donald Trump won all 7, clearly and convincingly. You look here in the state of Texas, as you know, I was Chuck Schumer's #1 target in the country. This was a $250 million race, a $250 million race. And we ended up winning by 9 points. We won by 1 million votes statewide. And I'll tell you, Jason, what I may be most excited about is that I won the Hispanic vote statewide in Texas by 6 points. And South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, which has been a bright blue bastion for more than 100 years, South Texas flipped red. That is a generational shift. And I think it is a mandate that we have now to deliver on our promises, to secure the border, to bring back the economy, to bring inflation under control, to unleash oil and gas, and to end the wars abroad and stand up and defend America.
Senator, we always appreciate the time. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.